Good morning, everybody. Actually, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And I am so excited today. This is going to be one of those meetings that you might want to just watch it again and again. And hopefully, we'll have enough informations and just really just focus on the facts and answer all your questions. So, one of the hottest topic been floating around is people asking is what are the unique features and differences between the Healy and the MagHealy? So we're gonna dive into that. We'll promise you. Before we start that, I just want to just have a quick introduction of myself, and then we have an amazing guest who's joining us today. As to myself, my name is Mei Cheung. I'm a retired chartered accountant, certified financial planner, MBA, and the reason why I no longer do those things because I was having health issues, taking a lot of medications. So, and then I got really passionate into functional medicine. So, uh, learn about Chinese medicine, acupuncture, you name it, and I was able to get rid of all the medications I'm taking. And I'm just passionate about learning everything about how to support our immune systems to restore our natural health. So when I learned about Healy or frequencies about 1.5 years ago, that was it. I feel like I found home finally. Everything kind of makes sense. Everything kind of makes sense. And since then, I've been just really passionate about sharing this amazing science that actually exists for over 100 years. Um, Today, joining me with this amazing presentation is Dr. Steve. And we are just so fortunate. Dr. Steve has over 45 years of functional medicine experience, and he's also the Dean of the International Medical University of Natural Education, Director of Quantum Health Associates in Los Angeles, a Vice President of Healy World. He's also a key member of our board of directors for Healy America. And he's also an author, lecturer, and a time waiver practitioner. So, Doc Steve, please just take a few minutes to say hi to everybody before we start this amazing presentation.
Absolutely. Well, good morning, May. Very early morning, I should say. It's just turned 7 a.m. here in Los Angeles. And I'm really excited to be here to share about the time waiver that I've been using for approximately the last 2 months or so. I'm also a member of the product advisory board from LA. And so what we do is we beta test a lot of the products that come out before they come out so we can look and see and make sure there are no issues or bugs or problems. And that's what I have been doing for the last 2 months. And I've had the exciting ability to play around with this amazing device. And I'm just really happy to and excited to present it to all of you today.
Well, let's get started. And I
We
just
kind
cannot
of
wait to
make
learn from you.
can we enlarge the screen a little bit here? If you hit the view button, I believe in the upper left corner, it probably
Okay,
will make it as
try
an
this.
individual upper left where it says view.
Does that look better for you?
Um, yes, that is better.
Okay, I'm just
So
trying
a
to.
little bit of background here. As you mentioned, I've been June 1st, I started 45 years in practice. Started out in functional medicine, anti-aging medicine, nutritional medicine, and had been doing that for many years. And then in the late 90s, got introduced to the whole field and concept of frequency medicine, quantum energetic medicine, and I have been practicing that since that time. So I have 20 plus years of experience. And I'll tell you, when I got into the field of quantum medicine, it completely changed my life and changed the life of every patient that I see. And it set me on a course that continues to grow every year. and it's exciting. It's so exciting for me to be involved with Healy. And the way I actually got involved with Healy is really interesting. So I just want to share that brief story. So having worked in this realm, and I use a professional device, as I said, it was actually developed by NASA and similar to Time Waver, a little bit different, but got similar type of a device. And my whole process in terms of working with people is that health is a process, it's not an event, which means you don't expect to just automatically within one session with a doctor or having one interaction with somebody completely change everything that's happened to you since you've been born. But it's a process that occurs over time. So over the years, as patients came to me, and usually in my practice, they come see me once a month, once every 6 weeks, and we check them out to see what's out of balance. But we also do treatments on them, balancing treatments through frequencies, similar to what we do with the Healy. And I thought that, wouldn't it be great if one day somebody could develop a portable device that I could give to my patient when they left the office that would be able to continue the work that I was doing with them. And I asked the company that I was working with at the time if they would be willing to look into something like that. And of course, they said, yes, that's exactly where we would like to go to. So for every 6 months or so over time, I would call them and say, how are you doing? And what stage are you at? And how soon are we going to get this? And every time they would say, we're still working on it. It's not an easy concept to put together, costs a lot of money, a lot of research. And so they would put me off basically when I spoke to them. Call us back in 6 months. Let's see where we're at. Well, this went on and on for about, I would say at least 3 or more years. And finally, one day, and this was back in 2019, I called them up and said, hey, look, we've been talking about this concept, and I'd really like to know an answer from you. When is this going to happen? When do you actually see that this is physically going to happen? And they said to me, we've been working on this for so many years. We put a lot of money into this, and we just don't, at this point in time, don't feel that we have enough knowledge to be able to make this thing happen. So we're putting the project on hold for a bit. And I said, well, that's great news. And I could hear on the other side of the phone that they were pretty surprised to have me say that. But you see, in my life, the way it works is that when one door closes, another door usually always opens. So the fact that they told me that it was no longer possible for them to do it, I could take my attention and focus off of that and now open it up to the possibility that it would show up somewhere else. And so what I did is I do a lot of work and have been doing a lot of work with meditation, with manifestation specifically. And so that evening, after they told me that they didn't think that this was something that be able to accomplish in a short period of time, I sat down and did a manifestation meditation. And basically in my mind during that meditation, I listed every single one of the aspects that I was looking for in this particular portable device. I said in my mind the types of scans that it did, what it could do, the size of it. I even said it was going to be made in Germany because I was sure that the Germans could probably come up with something, because when I was first introduced to energy medicine in the early 80s, actually, and I studied a little bit over in Austria and Germany, the first frequency device that I ever worked with was a German frequency device called the Vega test device back in 1985. So I knew the Germans were always ahead in this field, and probably for what I was looking for, they'd be the ones. And again, I listed, all the specifics. And, in my practice, when patients come to me, sometimes they will ask me to work with them, not just on a physical level, but sometimes on a mental, emotional level. I also have a master's in counseling psychology. And so a lot of times, people will come in, for example, and say they're having a difficulty finding a partner. They really want to be in a relationship, but they just can't find the right partner. And what I do is I send them home with homework, and I say to them, go home this evening, take a pad and a pen, and write down 100 aspects of what are you looking for in that partner. And I don't care how mundane it is. I don't care if it's the color of their hair, their religion, what they do for a living, whatever it is, all of those qualities that you want in that person, write it down. Because what I have learned in my life when I work in that level of manifestation is the more specific I can get about what it is I'm looking for, the more likely it's going to show up. Because everything we want is actually out there already in the universe. And it's just our matter of lining up what we want, what's out there. It's sort of the whole process of quantum entanglement actually brought to life. And so I did the same thing with this device that I was looking for. It was very specific. I even said in my meditation that I'd be the first person in the United States to have one. It wouldn't be, available here yet. And then I let it go. And then, of course, that's, you put out your intention. I call it an intention. And as we know, when we work with the Healy, intentions are probably one of the most important processes of starting any Healy session, is to have a really clear intention, to have a very positive, very present intention. So for example, if you wanted to treat yourself with your Healy and you had a headache, you don't want to start your intention out with, I want to get rid of my headache, because then the brain focuses on the word headache. Instead, you want to say, my mind and my head is clear and balanced at this moment. And that would be an example of a positive intention that you might use if you were dealing with a specific issue like that. So again, and then you kind of let it go and have the session happen. And so I let it go. And literally 7 days later, it was exactly 7 days. It was funny because I knew that because we were in a Mercury retrograde at that time. And that day that Mercury went direct, that evening, I was on the internet. I was looking at things, doing some research, and all of a sudden a page popped up in German. I don't speak German. And I was like, oh, this is weird. I wonder what this is. I put it through Google Translate, and it was a personal page from someone who was describing this device. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds like what I had just put out into the universe 7 days ago. And there wasn't really any contact information. There was just a small picture in the corner and a person's name. So immediately I Googled them. I went on Facebook. I tried to connect with this person. I found out their information. I wound up doing that. And I wrote them a letter telling them, I emailed them saying who I was, what I was looking for, what I was looking to do. And the next day we had a 2.5 hour conversation about Healy. And as he spoke to me about it, it was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I had put out there to the universe. So for me, and I know most of us out here, because when I speak to lots of people that are working with the Healy, everyone seems to say they manifested Healy in their life. Well, I honestly believe that I manifested Healy in my life by doing
That's
that
amazing. That's
specific.
an amazing story.
It's true. It's
That's
absolutely
how lucky
true.
we are today.
Yeah.
And we're just so lucky to learn from you today. I think we should just get started and then
Right.
just go through the slides. And I actually prepare a little comparison, and my screen is actually.
And before we start this presentation, May, the one thing I want to say that I think is really, really important is that the MagHealy is not a replacement of the Healy. It's not better than the Healy. As a matter of fact, we basically have 3 different modalities that we have available to us with the Healy to be able to use in various different situations, which I think is really, really important to know, because that's really what differentiates us from every other frequency company out there, is our ability to deliver frequencies in different ways. Of course, we have the Healy, which delivers microcurrent to the body, which is more of delivering frequencies on an electrical realm. And then we move over to the Healy coil, which is a way of delivering frequencies on a scalar wave frequency, which is with the Tesla coils that puts out a 0 point field, a field of possibility. And now we have the MagHealy, which works what we call pulse magnetic fields. So as we can see, each one of those devices uses a different way of delivering frequencies into your body. And it isn't like one is better than the other. It's more like they are complementary to one another. They are synergistic to one another. As a matter of fact, if you use the Healy along with the coil, if you happen to have two Healys, you'll notice you have an enhanced effect by using both the Healy microcurrent, and then at the same time, if you're wearing a Healy coil, you'll notice the effect is actually greater than just using the coil or just using the Healy. Well, the same thing occurs when we use the MagHealy. If you're using the MagHealy at the same time as you're using the microcurrent or the coil, you're basically enhancing the effect of those devices and of that field. And as Marcus has said when he's spoken about the MagHealy, you actually create a resonance in between these devices. They all start to combine and resonate together. So that's really important to note, because this is an addition to something that we already have. It is not a replacement for something that we already have. And that to me is really key.
That is correct. I think it's so important to just set the concept straight, the science. And my understanding is with the two of them, I think we're the only company that offers such a selection, a combination of different ways of using frequencies in
Exactly.
restoring our bioenergetic field.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, having been in the field, for this long a period of time, I can tell you that I am pretty aware and knowledgeable about every other type of frequency device out there. And the thing about Healy is that there is no comparison, absolutely no comparison with Healy and all the other devices that are out there. And I think this is important for me to share this too, because people always get the question and they never know how to respond to it. But it's like somebody will say, well, what's the difference between a Healy device and a Rife device? Or what's the difference between a Healy device and a PMF device? And the way I respond to it is the fact that I categorize those devices as what I call static frequency devices. And then I look at Healy as more of what I call dynamic frequency devices. And the reason I say that is if you're using one of those other devices, basically what you're doing is you have some sort of a manual or a book that's given to you with a list of specific conditions, and you look up those conditions and it'll give you, a couple of frequencies for each one of those conditions. And basically you set that device to that frequency. However, that frequency that you're using is the same frequency that everybody that uses the device uses. And I know, because of the practice that I've had in functional medicine for the last 45 years, I treat on the level of what I call biochemical individuality, because there are no two people that are the same. And irregardless of what condition or disease a person has, you really need to treat the underlying cause. And the underlying cause for people is different. So if I, for example, had 10 people sitting with a Healy and I walked around the room and I looked at their phones to see what frequencies were running for, say, let's go back to that headache again, I would note that on all 10 people's devices, the frequencies coming down would be unique and different. Whereas if I was using one of the other devices, like a Rife device, PMF device for that same condition, it would be a single frequency that all 10 people in the room would be using. And then the next day, if I wanted to continue that treatment because I wasn't complete, using those other devices, those same frequencies are used. And as we know, every time we use a Healy and do a session on a Healy, It is a unique session. In other words, it's mathematically impossible to ever run the same Healy session twice because of the fact of the hundreds of thousands of frequencies that come down to us, and they're specific to that moment in time. So that's really the biggest separation between everything Healy does and all the other devices, as well as the fact that most of the other devices out there don't have scanning capability. So again, there's no way for them to really specifically figure out for themselves what frequency they might want to use. And that's the big difference between Healy and everything else.
That's amazing. And you know what I always explain to people, and while we listen to Dr. Steve, we hear all the science, all the details, and one of the things that excite me the most is that the Healy or the MagHealy is for everyone. It's a non-medical devices and non-medical device. So basically, literally, if you know how to use a cell phone, you get the device installed, you press the button, you can use it. Is that correct? It's very easy to
It's
use. You don't need
pretty
to
plug
be
and
trained.
play, right? And as a matter of fact, the MagHealy is probably the easiest of the three to actually use because there's really nothing you need to do but turn it on and then choose the particular program that you're wanting to run. So yes, it's very easy. And of course, in our community, we have people really, really young, all the way up to, I know people that are in their 80s and 90s that are using Healys on a daily basis. So it is extremely user friendly.
And and I understand that there are a lot of devices out there. Sometimes I get so confused, especially when it comes to the PEMF devices. And I just, it's mind-boggling. Some of them cost like $4,000, $8,000, and they are screaming. They don't know how to use it. And some of them you have to lie down to use it. And other features I want to highlight to everybody is the portability of our
Exactly.
device. Can you point out about the portability of the MagHealy and
Well,
also about
yes,
the single frequencies versus how we have specific dual frequencies for specific programs for the MagHealy?
absolutely. I mean, the great thing about the MagHealy for me is that there are many ways of using it. And what I mean by that is that it can be used on yourself personally. So, for example, here, if I'm running one of the McMakin programs and say I have a tendonitis in my shoulder and I want to treat that, I tune in the specific program for tendons, and then I place the MagHealy directly on the area of the body that I'm looking to treat. However, if I want to use what are called the atmosphere programs, which we'll go into in a moment, I can just put the MagHealy on my desk in the middle of the room, up to say 5 to 6 feet away, and it's not only working with me, but it's working with anyone else that happens to be in that same environment at the same time, which is such a great benefit. And it's different than using just the Healy, which we usually use to treat a single person at a time, although we can treat groups in Healy in the blue dot. But this allows us, as we'll see as we get through some of the atmosphere programs, how practical this device is and how it can be used in group settings and really easy to do. And it's also able to be used when it's on the power supply. So if you have it sitting on your power supply, which is around, power supply here, I can't sort of show it to you. It's plugged into the wall here. You won't run out of run out of a charge because it's always recharging itself. Unlike Healy, where you shouldn't be running it when it's plugged in, with the MagHealy, it's encouraged to run it while it's on its power source so that it stays charged all the time.
Yeah, we actually have a few slides to go through the various programs to give you an idea, an overview, what kind of specific programs that the MagHealy actually offer. And each of the specific program has dual frequencies that are specific to treating for helping with a specific issue. But before we dive
Right.
into this,
I
because
want to
we
just,
want
yeah, I
to,
want to just clarify just a little bit for you here. So we're really, into the science here. The McMakin programs are the ones that have the dual frequencies. So they don't all have dual frequencies, but the McMakin programs, which is true frequency specific microcurrent. So at the very onset of Healy, and again, I got involved at the very early days in 2019 when Healy first came out. A lot of people were sharing Healy as an FSM device. They were talking about the fact that it was a frequency specific microcurrent device. And ultimately, we were told, specifically by Carolyn McMakin, that the Healy was not a frequency specific microcurrent device because the way she presents frequency specific microcurrent and the way it is out there in the medical realm, it's a two-channel device. In other words, two frequencies have to be running simultaneously. Whereas with the Healy, we have a single frequency, but it changes every 10 seconds. So I just wanted to be clear with you that some of the programs are dual frequency programs and some of the programs are single frequency programs. And we'll get into that in a moment.
right. So that's why I highlight here that the specific difference between Healy and the MagHealy is the single and dual frequencies. And thanks for clarifying that within the MagHealy, that the McMakin is the dual frequencies. But we have a separate presentation that people can review the recording last week from our Dr. McMakin's presentations. I also learned from her that the FSM protocol within the MagHealy, it is the same as the FSM protocol using microcurrent with the practitioners. There are differences in terms of the difference in program, the program within the MagHealy and non-medical device. When you have really, serious issues and you have to work with a practitioner, that they can actually program. They have a lot more protocols beyond the 20, 24, 25 that come with the MagHealy, and you have to be well trained to be an FSM practitioner. But within the one that she has specifically selected and put inside the MagHealy, they're easy to use, very safe to use. You don't need to be a therapist. You can get the device and you use it. They're very effective. And the effectiveness of the magnetic frequencies, using the MagHealy of these specific programs are as effective, that she told me, as being the similar programs used by practitioners. So I'm very, very excited about that. And before we dive into the MagHealy presentation, I just want to highlight a few key features of the Healy that is so important that I want to remind everybody that it's only unique to the Healy. But first of all, with the different program, we always refer them as the blue app and the pink app. And with the blue app specifically, we can tap into the information field and do scans and do bioresonance scans and to identify areas of imbalances in all sorts of area in terms of spiritual realm, the mind, the emotions, and body. So it's a truly holistic device that we can identify our imbalances, and then we have frequencies through vibrating our blue app. We can restore our imbalances. Like we have also a module called an aura modules. We can do an aura scan, identify specific imbalances in the 7th chakra, and even within the aura module, we can actually use to create our own frequencies device. We also have a different training that go in detail into that. And that's very, very unique. That's only available with the Healy. And within the Blue app, there's also a very exciting program. It's my personal favorite, which is the coaching module. And that can identify and analyze the root cause on some of our imbalances and help us to identify those blockages so that we can overcome a lot of challenges in life in terms of relationships, personal relationships, family relationships, social relationships, emotional balances, Even things like if you want to do better in terms of achieving your goals, have better business results. There's just so much to it. And like, again, we have a separate training to identify that. And that's just so important because life is just more than a few things, and it's involving our interaction with different peoples, and our energies get quantum entangled with everybody in the universe. So with the information field, we get into the quantum entanglement, and with the Healy, we truly have a unique device that can help us to bring our imbalances back into restoring our bioenergetic field, and help in also kind of tap into the global information field to help us raise the global consciousness. That's what excites me, because we are seeing the world is going crazy. Mental health is problems is going through the roof. Like, we have the highest suicidal rates. People are getting sick from all kinds of mysterious circumstances. I'm just, it's mind boggling. Like, there's just so many ways that you can just like, one of the article I heard was like, you can actually fall in different sleeping position. You can just die from a heart attack. There's just so much craziness happening out there. And
Well,
with the
yeah, and
Healy,
there's a reason for it too, because um, as we all know, over the last 3 years or so, the world has gone through some major changes, especially as it affects one's health, and therefore that has created a very high level of stress in people's bodies: physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress. I actually, with my other professional device, have a way when a person first comes in to see me, when I hook them up, one of the first readings I get is their actual stress levels, a quantified stress level, so I can see how stressed they are. And the preceding um, 20 some odd years of my practice, there would be possibly 15 to maybe 20% of people that came in that were really in that sort of red danger zone, I call it, of really high levels of physical, mental, emotional stress. But I have found within the last year and a half, it's about 85% of all the patients that come in to see me are in this really high stress state, both physically stressed, mentally, and emotionally stressed. And my firm belief is that the cause of almost all disease is inflammation, because you can trace almost every disease back to that state. But then, if you want to know what's the cause of inflammation, you always go to stress. So, because of what we're dealing with as a planet right now, I think you're going to see a lot more chronic degenerative disease start showing up around us, more so than we've seen in the past. And the great thing about the Healy, it's the perfect tool to be able to eliminate stress. And maybe this is a good time for me to just throw in a little key here, because people will always say to me, what is your favorite Healy program? I have a few favorites, but my absolute favorite Healy program, and this may surprise you, is a program called Bed Rest. It's in the sleep category, and it's called Bed Rest. Why is this my favorite Healy program? Well, as I just mentioned, we're all under constant stress all the time. And basically, we're in what's called sympathetic. So our nervous system is divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic nervous system is the classic fight or flight part of the nervous system, whereas parasympathetic is the functioning of all the good functioning of all the organs, the state of calmness and relaxation. And so when we want to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic, the best way to do that, the fastest and easiest way to do that, is to stimulate the vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs all the way through the body, innervates almost all parts of the body. And we can do that. We can do that with the Healy. We can do that with the coil. We can do that even with the new MagHealy, because we have programs that allow us to specifically stimulate the vagus nerve. In the Healy, it's the bed rest program. In the MagHealy, as we'll see, it's the vagus nerve program. And if you use that program on a regular basis, you'll find very shortly your body starts to return to that balanced parasympathetic state and gets out of that whole fight and flight that we deal with on a daily basis. And I think that's a key, because I know that many people, when I speak about the bed rest program, they haven't even thought about using it because they just assumed that it was a program maybe that you used before you go to bed or something to do with sleep, but it's not. It's specifically designed to stimulate the vagus nerve. And that is one of the key components. If you look up vagus nerve these days, you'll see it's a really hot topic out there. So many people, so many companies are talking about ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. So if you're using the Healy to do it, basically what I recommend, if you have access to the ear clips, you use it with your ear clips. And if you don't have access to ear clips, we all have the small sticky pads. And so you take the sticky pads and you place them behind your ears. If you put your fingers behind your ears, you'll feel a bone back there. That's the mastoid bone. And if you place the sticky pads on the mastoid bone behind your ears, you'll get the same results. We're basically doing at that point something called CES, cranial electrical stimulation, and we run that bed rest program, and immediately the body goes from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So I
That's
wanted to point
amazing.
that out because it is, that alone, there are devices out there that are being sold right now on the marketplace for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and all they do is stimulate the vagus nerve. They have that one single function. With us, we have hundreds and hundreds of functions, but included in that is my favorite, which is the bed rest program for stimulating the vagus nerve.
And that's using the microcurrent application. Again, that's
That's
unique
using
to
the
Healy,
microcurrent
which
application,
is
yes.
that's why it's so important to see the distinct, unique feature of both devices, and they
Right.
both has its place. And if you mentioned about a stress, right? We also have the Healy watch, which is amazing. Healy watch is very unique. Yes, and it's
I'll
different from
tell
all
you
the
so.
other devices out there. Not only it measure our heart rate variance, our sleep patterns, our stress level. It's just feedback systems that can feed the information back, connect to our Healy, and with our specific Watch Healy program that we can monitor and then have the selective frequency program to bring our body back into to balance. And over time, you can actually track the improvement of your vitals, which is very, very unique, and only the Healy and the Healy watch can provide that. And there's no other stuff out there that does
Well,
that.
there are other watches like Apple watches and other watches that can take certain parameters, that they measure. But what's unique about the Healy, and my favorite program on the watch program, is the HRV, or heart rate variability program, because as we were just talking about it, the HRV is a level, a specific number to monitor how stressed your body is. When you run I've been wearing this watch now for 2.5 years, 24/7, and monitoring my HRV, you can see the improvements that occur by using the Healy. That's so wonderful of actually having the watch, because you have a measurement device that actually tells you where you begin and where you've gone to. And if you use the recommended programs that are connected with the watch, you'll see changes come pretty rapidly. Another part of the Healy watch that I really like is the measurement of the sleep cycles, the deep sleep, the REM sleep. Because when I started using the watch, I never before had tracked the actual state of my sleep. I knew personally that I needed to get 8 hours of sleep. That was good for me, but that's all I knew. Little did I know that there were these levels of sleep that could be tracked. And based on that, you could get a lot of information, because we all know that sleep is so important, and that's the place where our body does most of its repair. But it usually does it in the time frame of what is called deep sleep. And when I first took that first reading, that very first time, I was horrified to see that I was only getting somewhere between 45 minutes to 1 hour in deep sleep, which is not really that great. And over time, as I ran some of the balancing programs that are associated with the Healy watch, I now consistently have 4 to 4.5 hours of deep sleep every night, which actually
Wow.
exceeds the time that is recommended. So
And
that
we
to
all
me,
know sleep
again,
is so important. Like, because we
yes,
detox and we have different hours, and that's the natural cycles, there's different programs, and everything is related in our health, right? And that just
right,
amazing. I'm so glad you took the time to explain to us of the various programs available for, helping with our sleep.
and
And I just want
stress.
to also highlight that with the Healy, we also have access to the Heal Advisor search app, which is another amazing app. It's kind of like connected to an expert, and there's a search function. You can search a particular issue, and then it can tell you which programs are available, and they tie into the Pink app, and you can use different microcurrent program to help with. Kind of helping me with different issues, right? So again, that's very unique with the Healy as well. And we can go on and on and on about the Healy, but again, this is not
Exactly. I
what
can
we're doing
speak for,
here today. We just
right.
highlight the key unique differences. We have like literally like unlimited number of videos online that go into all these things. We have
All the
just
programs. Yeah,
hundreds of programs. But
right.
I'm just going to just move forward to the next part of the
Please.
presentation, because I think now that we're clear about what the Healy provide in helping with our holistic health and tapping to different areas, the MagHealy is very, very unique and very, very effective. And Doc Steve is going to, go through the slide to help out. I'm going to see if I can go to the next slide because my computer key is stuck in this mode. And but there are 4 core applications that come with the MagHealy that we can take a look. Okay. So,
I
Doc
think,
Steve, can you just start talking about the 4
sure.
applications while I'm trying to flip to the next slide?
Yeah, you may want to just close out the that presentation started again.
Yeah.
So one of the things about here we go. Okay. So one of the things about the MagHealy is the fact that it puts out what's called a pulsed magnetic field, a pulsed magnetic field. And this field has a radius of approximately 5 to 6 feet. So as I said, you can say, for example, put it on a table and have people around the table, and each one of them would be treated at the same time. We also have 2 quantum sensors, as we mentioned earlier, whereas the Healy has 1 quantum sensor. The MagHealy has 2 quantum sensors. Of course, we need 2 quantum sensors because when we're running the MagHealy programs, we're running dual programs. And the dual and dual programs. We also have a Kozyrev mirror in the MagHealy. And that is a mirror that allows us to do very interesting things when we connect into the cloud and connect into the information field. And when we run the MagHealy, another function that we have that's not talked about a lot, but also is important in terms of the functions here, is that it's as you saw earlier, and for some reason it disconnected from my phone here. The phone is giving me a little issue here because now it's not allowing me to even. Um, the lights that go around work in the infrared range. And I know many people like to do work with infrared. So we're actually having infrared benefits from using the MagHealy also.
Wow.
Um, again, emitting a magnetic field, it's a pulse magnetic field. So that takes advantage of the benefits of the magnetic field application in the surrounding space. Again, it treats the surrounding area, has a radius of about 1.5 meters or somewhere between 5 to 6 feet. And so say you're in a very, very large room and you want to get people having the benefit of it, you can get multiple MagHealys and place them, say 5 to 6 feet apart. And as you run those programs, they will actually go into resonance with one another and amplify the field. We have 4 unique modules, which we'll get into in a moment. Each one has a different function. As we said earlier, it's easy and convenient to use. We don't have wires. It's battery powered. We can use the device when it's on its charging plate. And again, like the Healy, it's controlled by its own unique smartphone app. Use it anywhere, anytime. So then we get to the whole aspect of dual frequencies, which again is the basis of the making frequency-specific microcurrents. So we have dual magnetic frequencies that address imbalances in the bioenergetic field. So what does that mean? Well, in classic frequency-specific microcurrents, we have what are called channels. We have the A channel and the B channel. The A channel is always the condition. So for example, say you want to deal with, you have an inflammation, as I mentioned earlier. Well, 40 hertz would be the inflammation, and that would be on the A channel. Or, for example, if you wanted to restore vitality in an organ, 49 hertz would be that frequency. If there was scarring and you wanted to address that, 30 hertz would be the frequency of scarring. So the channel A, again, is always the channel of the condition. And then the channel B is the channel of the tissue or the organ. So 396 hertz would be the channel and the frequency of nerves. 191 hertz, for example, would be the frequency of tendons. 116 hertz would be the frequency of the immune system. So say you had a neuropathy, which is an inflammation of the nerves, you'd be using a program that delivers 40 hertz for inflammation and 191 hertz for nerves simultaneously. And you can actually see that in the Healy app itself, those two specific and unique frequencies being run at the same time. Now, I also wanted to mention in terms of the power of the MagHealy itself, because it has a magnetic field strength of what's called 300 microteslas, which is a measurement of magnetic strength, which is 6 times the magnetic field that the Earth puts out itself. So the Earth puts out, in general, 50 microteslas. The MagHealy puts out 300 microteslas.
Wow.
The ranges are different too. So the range of the Healys, as we know, is from 0.1 hertz to 1.0 megahertz. That's the Healy frequency range. However, the MagHealy frequency range is 0.1 hertz to 12.5 megahertz. And why is that important? Well, one of the reasons it's important, because it extends itself to that higher range, is that 10 megahertz is a very, very powerful frequency. It has specific effects on our meridian systems, which then resonate with our bioenergetic system, and also what's called the coherent domain of water. They all resonate at that 10 megahertz level, which the MagHealy incorporates in its programs. Also, that 10 megahertz is the resonant frequency of microtubules, which run throughout our body. And as we know, what really transmits frequencies into our bodies is the actually water, the intracellular, the extracellular water that's in the tissues of our body are transmitting the frequencies to all areas of our body. You know, there's a book out and new studies by a Dr. Gerald Pollack called The 4 Phases of Water, which is really an interesting one and very much applies to the use of Healy and the use of Healy frequencies, because of the fact that this 4th state of water is looked upon as a crystalline matrix form of water. And as we know with crystals, crystals retain and send frequencies very easily within their structure. So when water is in that crystalline structure, as it is in our collagen and the areas between our bones and our skeletal system, when we apply the frequency from the either MagHealy or the Healy, it easily is transmitted simultaneously to the other areas of the body. And again, that 10 hertz is powerful specifically because it resonates with water. And therefore, as we'll see in a moment, as I see May, you just put that application up, we have an actual water application. So we can actually send frequencies for certain conditions into the water even more powerfully than we can do by just taking the Healy and leaning it up a glass of water, because that is another way of sending frequencies into the water, is to lean the Healy and let it, with the electromagnetic field, affect the water. But by using the more powerful MagHealy, which has a more powerful magnetic field, we can basically take a container of, usually glass is the best, and then we can take the MagHealy, we can use the specific program, put it on top of the container of water. It runs for about 10 minutes. We can then allow the frequencies to imprint the water and then drink the water during the day. So we have another way now of getting the frequencies during our day beyond using the device. And actually, this is going to enhance the application. So,
Are these water applications single or dual frequencies?
no, these are single frequency applications, but they're multiple frequency applications. In other
Right.
words, what I mean by that is just like the Healy, every 10 seconds, the frequencies change. The frequencies do change for the water applications also.
Wow.
Now, as you can see, they're very diverse and in what they treat. Um, they work with things like energy, mental clarity. They even, bring your water into a state of coherence. A lot of people like to use and drink structured water. Well, when you use the water coherence program, it brings the water into a structured state, which is more coherent. We talked earlier about the vagus. So there is a specific program in the water applications where you can actually charge your water with the vagus, and again, use that to deal with stress. You
There's
may
like a
want to,
post-stress and anti-stress specific program. I'm so excited.
right. And
Can't wait.
the sleep frequencies that you may want to, drink a glass of water an hour or so before you go to bed. You can charge it with the sleep frequencies. Another real interesting one that a lot of people out there will find very interesting. I know a lot of people in our community do various types of intermittent fasting or fasting, and we can actually create a frequency during our actual fasting process. So we can drink the water that's charged with the morning fasting frequencies, the noon fasting frequencies, and the evening fasting frequencies.
And if you think
So
about our body is basically our cells is made out of water. And to have these structured, energized to inform the water and energize our cells, is like you can just imagine how vital this is going to be. And we
90% of the water ultimately, by is contained with water. In other words, 90% of the body is made up of water ultimately, and so water is the key. And that's why I always tell people, if you really want to run the perfect Healy session, irregardless if it's with the coil, the Healy, or the MagHealy, it's really important to be well hydrated, to drink at least 1.5 to 3 liters per day. And there's a real key in terms of kind of knowing scientifically how much water to drink. And basically, that key is take your body weight, divide it in half, and that would be the amount of water in ounces that you would have to drink minimally per day to stay hydrated. And so if you have a 125-pound person, they would be drinking 60 ounces of water, and that's 8 glasses. So 8 times 8 is 64. And so that's the classic when they say drink 8 ounces of water per day, which is the rule of thumb. It only applies to what they call the average person. So they always use 125 pounds as the average person. But you just take your own weight, divide it in half, and then convert it into ounces. Because so many times people will say to me, I can't get the circle on the pink dot program to turn white. It's always turning black. That is a sign right off the bat that you're dehydrated internally, that your skin is dry. So it's really important to drink water. And now we have a way of actually infusing our water with these amazing frequencies. So I believe that with the MagHealy, people are going to really start drinking a lot more water, May, because they're able to do so many things with their water.
Oh, you bet, you bet. And what excites me the most is the fasting. Even within fasting, there's three specific fasting specific program, and we all know that there's the science behind fasting, intermittent fasting, and when you fast, not eating, and just water or liquid that we're taking is so crucial. And then as you're fasting, our body is detoxing, flushing out all the toxins, and it's just
We
it,
have
it doesn't,
a
like, as I
program
say,
for
I keep it very
bioenergetic
simple. I'm not a
detox.
scientist
Yeah,
myself, but it's
right.
just so exciting just to be able to have this piece of simple technology and just with the press of the button and have all these benefits.
Let's go to the next slide here.
Okay, so do you want
So
to
these are
go
what are
through?
called the classic applications. So these are basically what are considered classic pulse magnetic field applications. Um, and the thing is that again, to distinguish the MagHealy from other devices. So people will say to you probably, well, what's the difference between a MagHealy and a PEMF device, which is the pulse electromagnetic field devices, which are also popular these days. And the fact is that most PEMF mats that I am aware of only have a very few frequencies that are involved. Some of them only have one, okay, or a few you can tune into. We have a whole set of just what are called the classical pulse magnetic field frequencies. And as you can see, we have another one for sleep. We have one for regeneration, energy circulation, fatigue, um, sound of silence would be a great one to use, when you're doing meditation. Those are the basic classical applications. Let's move to the next.
Yeah, and my understanding, these applications have proven track record. We have the studies to back it up that have proven to be effective. So we're very
These are
lucky
these
to have
are
access to them.
frequencies that have been used for years in the
Yeah,
field of
exactly. The classical
pulse magnetic
application.
applications. Exactly right. Then we have the McMakin applications. And the McMakin applications are the true FSM, frequency specific microcurrent. These are the dual channel ones that I was talking about in terms of the frequency channel A for condition and channel B for tissue or organ. And as you can see here, we have 24 of the most common and popular areas that Carolyn works with. These are her specific protocols, her specific frequencies, and we can see how we can treat various areas of the spine. We can treat certain organs like the kidney, bring the brain back in harmony. Um, we can work again with the vagus nerve, that ever important vagus nerve. Um, and in this particular grouping, I have to say that having used the MagHealy now for the last couple of months, my absolute favorite program in this application is the sleep program, because I can tell you that I've never, ever had a better night's sleep than I have when I run the MagHealy near my bed. It runs for about 4.5 hours, and I start it as soon as I lay down. And when I wake up in the morning, I am absolutely refreshed, energized to start my day, which wasn't always the case before using the MagHealy. And then another really great aspect of using the sleep program is, say, for example, that you can't get your 8 hours of sleep that you're used to or that you need. And that happens to me a lot. It happened today. I was up late last night and had to get up real early. So I got about 5 hours of sleep today. And many times I am working and communicating with Germany, the product development team, etc. So I'm staying up either really late at night or waking up really early, and I don't get that 8 hours of sleep. Well, I can tell you I've run an experiment and I've used the MagHealy with 5 hours of sleep, and I can tell you that even with 5 hours of sleep, my body felt like I had the full 8 hours of sleep. So I was able to get through the day without fatigue, without feeling kind of foggy and groggy. So that, for me, what is my favorite program of the in the McMakin applications. But they're all amazing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Again, these are all based on Dr. McMakin's presentation. These are already proven. They've been in practice for years with a lot of clinical studies and a lot of great results, testimonials from her clients. So
These are the
she's been
true
practicing
FSM
for
frequencies.
over 25 years.
Right. These are the true FSM frequencies.
And it's
Dual channel.
mind-boggling that we have this going to be at our fingertip,
I
that
know.
we can
Isn't it
use
amazing?
every single day for the
Yes.
lifetime access to all
Right.
these programs, and everybody in our family, with our coworkers. I just, you know, I just don't understand like how lucky we are,
Right.
honestly.
How about going to the next slide, the atmosphere? So the atmosphere programs are the ones that I explained that you can put in a room, and you can literally change the frequency of a room. You know, a lot of people use aromatherapy to try to diffuse in a room to make some shifts and changes, but we actually have specific frequencies that when we run them in a room, we can affect every single person in that space to get them in sort of an alignment of what it is we're looking to do. And as you can see here, we have so many different areas of use. We can put it in our offices when we go to work during the day, so we can focus on the work that has to be done. Again, sleeping is a great one. Again, which is the one that I use at night before I go to bed. I actually use the atmosphere one rather than the McMakin one. You can use it to encourage plants to grow. You can use it to clear a room. You know, there's so many times somebody will say to me, I need an energy healer to come into my house to clear the energy of the rooms out, or to clear the energy of this house out. I just feel that it's kind of funky. There's something in my home. I can just tell that the energy is off. You can run energy clearing in there. Car wellness is important because so many people these days are driving electrical vehicles like Teslas and other electrical vehicles. And when you drive an electrical vehicle, there's a grid that's set up in the car that's not necessarily healthy, that you're sitting in. You're sitting in a cage, like a grid. And so having the Healy with you and having it next to you while you're driving would be a great way of dissipating that negative grid in your car. Again, with this going to an even greater state, the electrosensitivity harmonization is a way to balance ourselves when we're being exposed and bombarded all the time by 5G and other electromagnetic radiation that comes into our houses and is with us all the time. Running the electrosensitivity harmonization will clear a lot of that 5G out of our space. Family harmony is a great one to run at the dinner table when everyone's having dinner at night and the family gets together, placing the MagHealy in the center of the table and running that to create more harmony in the group. We even have programs here like we in the Healy for animal wellness, which is really great, and balancing animals. And the way I look at that is I do a lot of work with animal rescues. And when I go into an animal rescue, the dogs are always very hypersensitive and they're very stressed out. And imagine having MagHealy's in rescues and shelters and turning it on and allowing that frequency to transmit throughout the rescue and calming all of those animals down. Isn't that wonderful? We also have one I know many people are going to probably turn on immediately, which is the financial and prosperity frequency. Who doesn't want more prosperity in their lives? So running the atmosphere application will create and enhance our prosperity. And as you can see, there are so many programs we can pick and choose from here.
Yeah, I just
So
want
the
to
mag,
add a couple words with the atmosphere
sure,
application is because this is just amazing. And in Chinese, we have something called feng shui.
yes,
Feng
feng
shui
shui,
is basically enhancing the flow of energy. I remember when I was little, with a feng shui master coming to our house and then moving the furniture around because it's blocking the energy. So imagine it's all the same. It's about, for us to feel better, right? And things play certain way. And when the energy flows, you just don't know how and why you feel better. When it doesn't flow, everything's not going right. It is affecting your stress. It's affecting how you feel, and so this is going to be very, very exciting for people who are
yes, it
into
is.
optimizing the energies in your living space and everything. And thanks for
Absolutely.
pointing out about the car
It's,
wellness
it's,
part. That one
it's
is
like
a
a
huge
frequency,
thing.
it's like a frequency version of feng shui. Actually, every year, the Chinese New Year, I have a feng shui practitioner that comes into my home in my office and helps me realign the energy in my space by balancing, earth and wood and metal and putting various objects in various places. And yet this allows me to do this on a daily basis to create that harmony. And it's no surprise that this application would be involved with Healy because, as we know, the roots of Marcus, he came out, in that Indian tradition. That's where he comes from. And in the Indian tradition, they have a way of doing energy Vedic placement also that's very, very similar to feng shui. And it's all about the energetics of a space. So this to me was really, really exciting, knowing that we would be able to not only shift the energy in our physical bodies, but then shift the energy in the spaces that we live and work and play in on a daily basis. So
That is so
I'm,
amazing. And then when we
yeah,
put it in a living space and the energy changes and we all feel better, the interaction of the people, like imagine the family, the harmony, right? And the quantum entanglement, everything just kind of resonate with each other. It's just very, very exciting.
yeah. And when, I mean, putting this, having a couple of MagHealys, and then when your children are doing their homework at night, making sure that the MagHealy is in the room they're doing their homework, and um, making sure that you run the learning, concentration, and study programs at that time.
That's amazing, amazing. And I think it's about time to just do a quick wrap up. If you don't mind, Dr. Steve, can you just do a quick wrap up of this presentation for us?
I'm going to switch somebody's mentioning that my mic is having a little bit of static here, so I'm going to go to the non-mic here. How is that? Is that a little better in terms of hearing me, May?
I can hear you. I can hear you. It's okay. So
I
basically,
know I'm not
this is the
hearing
same
anybody.
chart we have at the beginning of the
Okay.
presentation, just highlighting the key differences and just to help everyone to get an idea what the main unique features are. And I hope that uh, that everyone here is clear that we're not replacing one over another. It's kind of like your both your hands and your legs. Which one is more important? You can't say that. They have very distinct features, and it's about offering choices to consumers that whatever that they need, they can get their hands on. So
So
I
one
just
thing I'd like
yes,
to
go ahead.
say in reference to that, which I think is really important, is the fact that, as we said earlier, the devices basically enhance one another. So there are people now out there in the field that I'm sure you're aware of, that when they run the microcurrent programs with the wrist electrodes, they're also running with a second Healy, a program on using their scalar coil. So they're getting the benefit of the microcurrent and the scalar energy simultaneously. Imagine now having a third way of enhancing oneself by running a microcurrent program, a scalar program, and a magnetic program at the same time. Each one of them will go into a coherence with one another, and each one of these devices builds on the other devices and enhances the other devices. So can you imagine May running all three devices
Yes.
simultaneously and really supercharging your body, which
Yes,
is
my
going to
two
be
Heelys are always like running at the same time. My blue one is almost nonstop around the clock, and I set a
mhm.
profile for different people. I have groups of people, my whole family, my husband and I, like yeah, the resonance that it caused, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
So the MagHealy will be available, I believe, in Europe beginning, I guess, at the end of July. The cost is approximately 2,800 euro for the MagHealy. It comes with the charging stand and the MagHealy. And then it will be available to the rest of the world. I've been told sometime in August, a few weeks after that. Um, I do know that there's going to be a limited run initially of MagHealy's. And the reason for that is that the chip that's being used in the MagHealy is a specific chip that is also, interestingly enough, one of the chips is being used in some popular automobiles right now in terms of their dashboard situation. So there's been a run on chips. You know, one of the things of COVID that's been an issue for people is the fact that a lot of the chips and parts that are used to make a lot of the electronic equipment out there are not as available as they were, 3 years ago. And so because of that, we have a limited amount of material right now, and Healy is trying to get as much as it can to go into full production, but there will be a limited supply at the start. So if you are interested in the Healy, I wouldn't wait around. As soon as it becomes available, I would just go and order it. Like I
exactly.
said,
And
I've been using it for 2 months now. I absolutely love it. It has so many applications that are synergistic with everything else that I'm doing in my life and in my body. And I don't think anyone will be disappointed.
exactly. And I always remind people for all our Healy product, including my Healy, it comes back by 14 days money back guarantee. So if you just with a little hesitate, don't hesitate. Just try it out. If you're not 100% satisfied, you can send it back for full refund. So
But the thing
in
about
that
Healy,
way,
as we know, is that
nobody does
the
because
amount
everybody just cannot
nobody
let
said
go of their Heelys.
exactly. They don't have returns specifically because people don't like it. If there's any ever returns, it may be just for maybe a technical difficulty with the device itself. But Healy does not have a high level of return. Once somebody gets a Healy and they start using it, they have that Healy for life. So why
Okay,
don't we
before
see at the
we
last
stop, let's just
before
see if
we
there's any questions.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I was going to say before for the final part here, let's see if there are any specific questions that anyone has that they want to ask me. And it could be about the MagHealy, the Healy. I'm open to taking any questions about anything related to Healy.
Yes,
So if
Michelle?
you,
I can summarize the question. I already summarized the questions to just to be, in the interest of time.
okay.
Let's go through the questions
And
regarding the
if we already
MagHealy.
covered in the presentation, maybe we can skip those. People can go back to watch the replay. Let's just focus on the questions that we did not cover.
Yeah. Regarding to energize the water, somebody asked how long the frequency will be in will hold when has after the imprint.
Well, that depends on the environment and the material that you use to put the water in. So, I use glass because glass tends to retain the frequencies better. But I also use I place this in a bag like a Faraday bag, which is a bag that protects it from exposure to other things in the environment. And when I have that in that bag, then it's pretty much it'll run, I don't know, 12 hours, 24 hours at least. That'll retain those frequencies, and then you
That's
can
a
always
fantastic
recharge it
tip.
because it only takes 10 minutes to apply the frequencies to a liter size of water. So you can buy 2-liter bottles if you want to, and after you charge the first one, you can automatically put the MagHealy on the second one. So that's ready for you. So after you finish the first one, you just go right to the second one. But I would say that, definitely would retain the frequencies at least for a day.
And
Okay.
I also remember Dr. McMakins also say if you have an office and you have one of those big tank of water, you can literally put the MagHealy on top to energize the whole tank of water for the whole
Those
office.
5-gallon containers that
Yes,
people
which is
commonly use
amazing.
in the water
Okay.
in an office.
On the same
You can
line,
actually do that.
somebody want to know if the coil can be used to imprint the water, the frequency for the water as well. Can the coil
Yes, I
be?
mean we can imprint water with the Healy coil, with the Healy itself, just by leaning. Has to be in very close contact with the container itself. You can lean the Healy with or without the coil against the container of water, and that is another form of doing it. But electromagnetic frequency is a weaker state than the magnetic frequency, so you're going to have a much more powerful experience using the MagHealy to energize water, but you can still energize water with the Healy itself.
And I just
Okay.
want to point out there are different programs. For example, we mentioned the children playing or different specific programs that come with the MagHealys are not available in the Healy. So that is a distinct, unique features between the two as well.
And
Can
vice
the
versa. There are
can the
programs in the
MagHealy,
Healy that are not in the MagHealy.
okay, can the MagHealy put near like a metal? Let's say if you have surgery before, because Healy you cannot really put with the microcurrent, you cannot put where the metal is, right? So
Well,
can
I
the
always say, as a rule of thumb, not to ever put anything that's putting any kind of frequency out. And if you have any kind of metallic implant in the body, you definitely don't want to put anything that's going to be putting any kind of a electromagnetic or magnetic field on top of it, because of the fact that it can influence, particularly, we have that caveat that says it's contraindicated with somebody that has a pacemaker, for example. I would have to say to be very careful again using the MagHealy with anyone that has any kind of implanted electronics. Some people have implants in their ears and in their hearts and other places, and it would be used a lot of caution around those specific areas.
And always consult with your doctor.
Yes,
yeah.
if you're not sure.
MagHealy cannot be used for distance application, right, Doc Steve?
Well, I mean, that's controversial, because I mean, when you think about it, anything could be used for distance application because of the quantum entanglement effect. So if you had a photograph of a person, okay, that you had, and you had the MagHealy and you turned the MagHealy on and placed it on the photograph, there is the potential of being able to transmit that energy to that person just via the photograph. I mean, it's been known to be done. I mean, people that work in that realm of radionics will tell you they do it every single day by just using something as simple as a photograph. So yeah, I'm sure that there are applications for that. I find though that by using the Healy and the blue dot, when we're able to actually enter in all the parameters of the person, and if they're present at least once and we get their frequency stored, there's a greater chance of having a bigger effect on people using that blue dot. But again, I mean, I would try it out and see what happens. It's all about quantum entanglement, and a photograph carries the frequency of the person. So if you put the MagHealy, and again, the most important thing is, irregardless of what you're doing, whenever you're using a Healy, your intention is the single most important thing that allows Healy to give it its best possible chance. So if your intention when you put that MagHealy on that person's photograph is to be able to send that energetic to that person, then that's exactly what will happen.
But I just want to point out the fact that distinct features about the power of the magnetic, the PMF application of the MagHealy is, if for example you're using the McMakin application, certain applications, the effectiveness the effectiveness is in a physical level, the physical body level. So you actually have to have the device on your body or near your environment. And we didn't mention about that, but obviously whatever Dr. Steve says on those other areas that involving the quantum physics applies. But you have to be very clear about what you're using, which program you're using, right? And I just want to mention,
as I said earlier, with the McMakin programs, for example, if I had a problem with a rotator cuff injury, a tendons in my shoulder, I would actually place it directly, because the closer contact you have with that magnetic field, the more powerful it is in that sequence with the McMakin.
And then for that particular program, you can't really do it in distance.
Right, exactly.
To get the same effectiveness, right?
With the atmosphere programs, you're much more likely to have an effect in a distance situation.
Right. There's a question regarding the light that is emitting from the MagHealy.
Yes.
You said it is infrared. Is it on the side when the light is
yes,
emitting?
It
is infrared. And what does it do?
The infrared light has a benefit because, as we know, light does affect the cells. I'm turning this on again here so I can show it to you. Light does have a powerful effect. We've heard a lot about red light therapy that a lot of people use. It's used to lower inflammation. So it'll have that specific effect of also, having that that effect on inflammation in the body. And as you can see here, we have the different types of lights that are on based on the different programs that we run. And sometimes we have all of them running, and sometimes we have only some. And let's see here.
I actually got an infrared light therapy from my chiropractor a couple of times when I hurt my wrist, but that's only limited to one thing. And again, that's also available with the MagHealy. That's amazing. And while Dr. Steve is looking, and I just want to make one comment again to remind some of you who does not have the Healy, is through the Healy in our Blue app, we have an amazing selections of programs that are available that you can set a profile and send frequencies and a distance. And a lot of those programs are not available in the MagHealy. It's very unique into restoring our holistic health. Any other questions?
There are questions regarding Healy. Do you have time for a few Healy questions?
Sure. I'd like to end at, in a few minutes at 8:30 so that it doesn't run long. But if you can give me some, yes, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Some people ask whether you can actually charge. You said you cannot charge the unit while they're using the Healy. Is it referring both the red dots and the blue dots? They cannot use.
It's best not to use the Healy while it's being plugged into the source, the electrical source. It's best to use the Healy after it's fully charged.
The reason is that it may affect the battery, the life of the battery, or
just the fact that it's being plugged in. You're getting if the Healy's plugged in while you're using it, you're getting whatever is also running through the current of the house. You're getting some of the effects. And we all know that most people's homes, there's levels of what's called dirty electricity that runs through the current in the house. So you wouldn't necessarily want to have that also part of the process when you're running a Healy connected into the power source. So that's why we say when we run a Healy, we charge it up fully. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to do that. And then we use the Healy, and then we put it aside and charge it again before we use it, but we don't run the programs while it's plugged in. Whereas with the MagHealy, it's a little different process here because it's magnetic and it can be run while it's sitting on the charging plate.
Okay, I think the time is kind of running out, and thank you so much.
I'll take one more question.
Okay, there is another question, maybe it kind of related to some medical condition. They said, can I put the pads behind the ears if I have a shunt in my head to bypass a tumor?
I wouldn't, honestly. I would just use it on the wristbands at that point. Again, you want to be careful when you're putting any kind of magnetic or electrical, energy in certain areas of the body. If you have a specific condition, and again, as we said earlier, if you have a question, consult your physician about that and ask him, what would the effect be if I had a magnetic field or an electrical field close to this specific area? But I tend to tell people, to be on the safe side and keep it away directly from, metallic implants and other issues similar to that you may have on your body.
Somebody, just the last question. Somebody said, if the company can we do a pre-order through the company?
No, we cannot do a pre-order. I believe, not sure the date in Europe that the Healy is going to be released. I heard it was something like either the 15th or 16th of July, unless you know any further information, May, but there are no pre-orders. And it's
Just
first come,
stay
first
tuned.
serve.
Stay close to your sponsor and all. We have like almost every single day we have webinar. We have Frequency Friday. So just stay tuned and order as soon as available. All of us are anticipating. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you, to show our gratitude to Dr. Steve to take the time to prepare this presentation and to share his decades of knowledge with us. And we're very lucky. Hopefully one of these days we can invite him back again when the MagHealy is we have more testimonials of people using the MagHealy and to learn more about how to use this exciting tool. Thank you very much again for your time, and please feel free to unmute yourself to say goodbye as we end this amazing session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
So much. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Steve.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
Have a nice day, everybody. And the recording will be available for you to share with your friends and families.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you again soon.
Bye. See you
Take
soon.
care.
See ya.